Hello. So, my friend, we are going to understand and apply in our life what we have done until now. The step one is to clearly understand the real self and what is not real self. Why to understand that? So that we can easily separate what I am not from what I am. I think I have discussed in detail, and that makes it clear. To repeat in a very simple way, anxiety, stress, duality, conflict, attachment, problems, suffering, pain, etc., and etc., that comes from the world outside is not me. My essential nature is pure consciousness, truth, love, wisdom, and permanent state of happiness. Sat Chit Anand. So the first step also makes us aware where the intellect is settled. Or I would say, what is the home of the intellect? The home of this physical body is your physical home, beautiful home. Home of the mind is calmness, relaxation. And the home of the intellect is the wisdom that my essential nature is the real self, which is of the nature of pure awareness, truth, wisdom, love, and permanent state of happiness. Let me switch off the silent mode because otherwise it will buzz in the middle and distract us. Then, once we understand that, it means we also understand that desire always pertains to something outside in the world. No worries about the desire, but seeking fruits of an action builds two things: expectations from the world outside and the ego sense. So we free ourselves from that ego sense while performing the karma action in our personal, professional, social, family life. I believe you have understood that part also. The third is, once we understand that we are performing all our karma as a duty and responsibility, as a play and fun, as performing role well, focused on the karma, but still there is a feeling inside that I'm doing it. So that does not go away easily. So we have to offer all the karma to the existence to get rid of this ego sense and the obsession towards expectation, duality, and a conflict. The fourth step we have understood, we have to redefine and refine our karma based on a desire. Because every desire prompts me to act. So now I go little deeper into the desire and I separate the binding desire, unbinding desire. Simple way to understand. You are stressed, binding desire. You are in anxiety, binding desire. You have an expectation, binding desire. So, normally, these expectations are not seen clearly in the mind as long as the mind is totally purified. So, how to understand? The moment you have anxiety, stress, duality, conflict, reaction, just make sure, remember, oh, it's a binding desire. I have to get rid of it. Don't get rid of the people outside. Sometimes I see people stop their car because of the red light and then they start hammering on the steering. What harm the steering has done to you? Because they are in rush. They are in a hurry. So there is a hurry leads to worry, causes the stress. So fourth step. Then the fifth step, we understood that what exactly is the error in judgment pertaining to my action, my thought, my speech, and my action. So in religion, we say it is a sin, but in Eastern wisdom, we say it is an error in judgment. We are living habitually, unconsciously, instinctively, impulsively. We have to get rid of it. As long as we are living into that state and in that attitude of impulsive, instinctive, habitual, it is going to cause too much of harm, and the permanent happiness and the peace will always be far away in my life. Then we are going, we are still purifying the mind. After 14th step, the real journey will start. But why to purify the mind? A simple question arises. That purified mind only can undertake a journey to the self discovery that leads to permanent happiness and peace. If the mind is impure, it cannot undertake that journey. I have already discussed in the last session. So the step number 6 comes now. We never think that why I have this desire. The mind moves habitually, instinctively, and impulsively, desire for pleasure. And we take it for granted. We do not reflect on what are the inherent defects in pleasure seeking. First, what are the defects in the pleasure? What are the defects in pleasure seeking mind? Because if we discover the defects in the pleasure, then we can instantly become aware of that mind which is pleasure seeking, which is the root cause of our problem, stress, and the suffering in daily life. And now the seventh step comes. The seventh step is all about now we have to cultivate the knowledge of the self. For what? For by thinking, by speaking, by action. But why to cultivate the knowledge of the self? Because the knowledge of the real self cannot be attained in the world outside. That real self is always present in my personal life, in my relationship, in my speech, in my thought, in my action, even while you are listening to me. So, if we do not cultivate that knowledge of the self, it will not be installed in the mind and the intellect. And if it is not installed in the mind and the intellect, the mind will remain crazy, lazy, obsessed, It will go back to its own habit of pleasure seeking. Error in judgment will cause anxiety, stress, duality, and a conflict. That is what happened a couple of weeks before you have sent an email. Cultivate the knowledge of our real self so that it is properly installed in the intellect. The home of the intellect is the wisdom of the real self. Just think of it for a while. That real self is of the nature of permanent happiness. What it means? Permanent happiness. Can there be an element of anxiety, duality, reaction, anger, hesitation? No. Are you living into that state? No. So when you are not living into that state, how your intellect behaves? The intellect says this is the cause of my suffering is outside. That is why we need to cultivate the knowledge of the self. So when we cultivate the knowledge of the self and the intellect is settled in the knowledge and the wisdom of the real self, what happens? Then the intellect inspires us to continue the journey until we discover that real self. So, on this step, we should also understand how to intensify the yearning desire for the self and how to separate. One more thing, how to separate two desires: desire fulfillment and self fulfillment. What is the difference between the two? The fulfillment by self discovery and fulfillment by the desire. Just think of it. Any desire fulfilled causes another desire. So, as such, there is no desire fulfillment. There is only self fulfillment. The mind must learn this principle clearly so that we can have a right clarity about the journey of self fulfillment. Now go back to the simple principle and become aware where the knowledge takes place. All knowledge takes place in the mind. I have headache, knowledge takes place in the mind. Mind says I have an headache. That knowledge of the headache. You are in the state of calmness where the knowledge is taking place in the mind. Anxiety, knowledge in the mind. Stress, knowledge in the mind. Just become aware. So, your awareness of a thought, feeling, sensation, duality, conflict, stress, permanent happiness, etc., etc., all are taking place in the mind. Why? Because mind is an instrument. Call me. You use a phone as an instrument. No, I want to watch that CNN. Open the TV or the computer. See? So the knowledge, all the knowledge takes place in the mind. Now, this mind works in two different ways at the same time. You are watching and listening to me. So, watching and listening is the content in the mind. And then you say, I am watching and listening. So, two things in the mind. Mind divides itself into two. There is a stress and there is you. And then you join together. I am in stress. You have an expectation is one thing. And I have an expectation. I is different. So the mind creates the knower, the doer, the enjoyer, one aspect. Second aspect, what it enjoys is the second aspect. Are you clear about it? We are going deeper. We are going. Take an example. Imagine, just imagine that you are in United Kingdom. Imagine. So what happens? You are sitting in USA, but you imagine in your mind that you are in United Kingdom. So where it is happening? It is in the mind. You did not go to United Kingdom even if you are thinking about it, even if you imagine it. You are sitting in US. Go a little deeper. Go a little deeper. Does the did the UK came to you or you went to UK? When you are thinking of United, when you imagined that you are in United Kingdom. Or can I ask another question in the same way? Did your mind went to UK or UK came to your mind? Think of it. And then we will relate it to anxiety, expectation, reaction, duality, conflict. Mind does not go anywhere. That is why I said you imagine you are in United Kingdom. What is that imagination? You think, you feel, you are aware, you bring an object that is United Kingdom in your mind. Your mind did not go to UK, but the mind simply imagined it, thought of United Kingdom. You are still sitting in USA. Can I say you are in UK in your mind? Clear? You are in anxiety in your mind because you brought that thought, that imagination of anxiety in your mind. The mind did not go anywhere. Just think of it. Just become aware of it means the mind imagined UK with the thought, image, feeling, and mind took the form of UK. Second point is very important. First, this mind does not go anywhere. Do you think that the mind has gone to UK? Then do you have two minds? One mind is listening to me. The mind remains where it is. We bring the thoughts, feeling, imagination, past, previous experience that lives in the mind. Well, if you're not thinking of UK, then no imagination of UK, mind is free. So the moment any thought of anxiety, feeling of anxiety comes, and if you become aware that It is not the characteristics of the mind. The mind is free. Anxiety is there. Mind is here. You see them. You say, I don't want it. And the mind follows you. The anxiety is gone. So it means the mind imagines with a thought, feeling, awareness, sensation. The mind does not go anywhere, but it has thought, idea, image, feeling, etc. Am I right? Just see that. Just become aware. Let me say, remember your oldest son. Then the mind says the name of your oldest son or the younger son. Then with that name and the form, your mind triggers the past impression, and then you say, my oldest son is good or not good, behavior is okay or not okay, attitude is okay or not okay. Did the mind went to the oldest son? No. Everything is happening here. We want to cultivate the knowledge of the self. We want that the intellect should install the wisdom of the self all the time. Why it has installed the knowledge of the stress, anxiety, duality, conflict, reaction, binding, desire, etc., and etc. It is the easiest thing to do, my dear friend. So let us move slowly. When we say I am stressed, what it means? My mind experienced and the intellect has installed the stress in me. Let us refuse. I don't want. Stress is one thing, and I am in stress is another. You have to listen to it, understand it. Understanding by experiencing. Stress is an image, idea, thought, feeling in the mind. Similarly, as I told you to imagine you are in United Kingdom. Mind has taken the form of United Kingdom. The mind has taken the form of a stress and anxiety and duality and a conflict. When the mind takes the name and the form of any object, any idea, any thought, then we experience that. So the moment you say, I am in stress, the mind has taken the form of a stress. So, where is the stress in the mind? As an idea, as a thought, as an imagination. That triggers the feeling, and then you claim you are in stress. One example. So, from today, the moment the mind says, I'm in anxiety, will you remember the anxiety as a name, as an idea, as a thought has taken the form in my mind? My mind has become an anxiety. That is why I say I am in anxiety, I am in reaction, I'm in stress. Just remember this and see what happens. Because the moment you are remembering and consciously thinking about it, the mind, you will see the stress is separate from you. I had given the example of anger perhaps hundred of times. Can you set an agenda to become angry tomorrow at 10 a.m.? When tomorrow comes and when the 10 a.m. comes and you see I have to become angry, will you become angry? The answer is big no, because you are aware. You did not manage anger. You did not ask how to manage it. You did not ask me how to remove it, because inner awareness separates unconscious, subconscious, habitual pattern of an anger will never come to you. But if I say, please set an agenda to be in peace tomorrow at 10 a.m., the mind says, yes, I will do it. I can do it. We are understanding the step number 7 to cultivate the knowledge of the real self indirectly in the first talk. And then we will approach it directly. What is the first step? We should have a clarity of the knowledge of the not self, what I am not, and what I am. You see, all these steps are interconnected, interrelated, progressive in nature. Now, can I make a big statement? We find the stress seems to be real. It is as real as dream. Anxiety is as real as dream. This is what our masters educates us. I'm not saying anything. It is all the teachings coming from the Eastern wisdom for more than 6,000 years, tested, validated, experimented again and again. So that is why I'm making a big statement from those teaching. The stress is as real as dream. Why don't you understand? I know your mind will ask me, why don't you understand? I feel anxious. I am in stress. I have those feelings. I have those reactions. Then how to align these two statements, these two understanding that the stress is as real as dream? As long as we are in a dream state, we find tiger is chasing us, you are running, your breath, short breath has started, you are exhausted, and the tiger overpowers you, and suddenly you wake up, tiger is gone. But experience of sweating, short breath, exhaustion, you feel it. Tell me. Tell me. Stress is as real as dream. This is the wisdom of the master. The moment you woke up, tiger does not exist. Still, the symptoms of hard breath, sweating, fear are all there for some time, and you are now sure the tiger is not there because the of wisdom is already there in the intellect, and then ultimately you're calm down. Am I right? Stress is as real as dream. Anxiety is as real as dream. Reaction is as real as dream. Dream is? We cannot say dream is conscious process. We even cannot say it's totally unconscious. So when the mind lives in between that state during our daily activities, then everything becomes real. So what Eastern wisdom and our masters are teaching? Live with awareness and attention. Live with wisdom that real self is my nature. The way you woke up from the dream, you are on the same bed when you slept. So it says, live into that awareness in my daily life. What will happen? My mind will say, I'm in a waking state. Where is the stress? Where is the anxiety? Where is the duality? Where is the conflict? Now, if I'm totally identifying myself with what happened to me in the dream with reference to the tiger, and the mind continues to think and imagines tiger attacked me, attacked me, attacked me, can that mind ever find permanent peace and happiness in life? Answer is no. This is what we say. The mind is impure. We have to purify the mind first. Otherwise, the past impression will continue to haunt me. They get mixed up with my thought, my speech, and my action. That mixture causes the impurity in the mind, and we cannot find the self. Mind needs to be pure. Did I tell you? The home of the body is your physical home where you are living. The home of the mind is the state of calm and relaxation, free from the influence of the thoughts, idea, and the images. And the wisdom is the home of the intellect. When all the three are settled in their respective homes, we can cultivate the knowledge of the self. What is the purest state of the mind? Emptiness. No, no, how can you say it is that? When we were born, did you have any thought? Thought we learned from outside. Now imagine, just imagine that we were taught since our birth the word stress means to smile. So when I meet you and I ask you, are you in stress? And you smile and you say yes. Every thought has been given a particular meaning, and that gets associated, identified with that feeling and the emotion and causes their problem. I normally ask people, are you in stress? Who is not in a stress? They become great philosophers. They overlook this reality that stress is as real as the dream. They are looking outside. They find their friends always talking of the stress and anxiety and reaction and problem and suffering. So, what will happen to this mind? Mind borrows all those impressions and lives in the same state. It never sees that at the time of the birth, the mind was totally empty. And if it is empty, it can be made empty. That is the true nature of meditation, leads to awakening. So, in today's lesson, you should undergo all the 6 steps before and to inquire what are the elements hidden in these steps to cultivate the knowledge of the real self, so that the mind is totally focused naturally to the goal of self discovery. What do you mean by totally centered? And are you a man or a woman? It is intellect has settled this knowledge. I am a man or a woman. Where do I live physically? It is perfectly settled. There is no doubt. There is 100% clarity and conviction. What car I own? 100% clarity. The mind need not to think. What a crazy question asked. Don't you see the car? Are you a man or woman? Don't you see me? Similarly, when the intellect is settled in the knowledge of the real self, who am I? The mind internally reminds you, the intellect settles in that wisdom. I am of the nature of pure consciousness. That is what the first step educates the mind and the intellect. Then the second step, what the second step teaches us, what the second step teaches us. Do you remember the second step? We have to perform the karma. We have to perform the karma huh, as a duty and responsibility. My duty is to guide you. The moment I come with you, you are with me. We start the journey. Not no excuses. No excuses at all. Do you see that? I see I understand your problem, and I understand your problem, and I say let me start. How to relate, that is very important. How to relate the 6 steps to move to the seventh step. That is what we are understanding in this talk. So the first step, pick up the first step. Do you remember the first step? Knowledge of the self and real self. The way you know your name with the clarity, conviction, the way you know your physical home, the way you know what car you own, the way you know kids you have. Do I know my real self? Or simply remind, become aware. When to become aware? 24 by 7. The way 24 by 7, it is clear to you that gender that you have, the place you live. What to do? Just remind, I am of the nature of the real self. Then the duty and the responsibilities. Mind must be very clear in thought, speech, and action. That if you perform your duty and responsibility, you are not going to get any reward. Remember, do the best in your personal, professional, and social life, and remain aware and alert if the mind is seeking anything from the duty and the responsibility that we have to undertake. What will happen? The expectation will drop, dissolve. And at the same time, the ego's sense will not disturb us. I have done so many things for this guy, and he is still or she is still not even appreciating and recognizing. If you have that thought, don't do it. It is better not to do it than doing it, and then blaming and complaining. The mind should be clear and pure. So that will help us. The veil in the intellect will be removed. Then still I have that feeling that I am doing. Take the take the word lightly. Whatever the action we are doing, we are the part of that existence, and let all the actions be done for this existence. Take the word lightly. We can understand we are not we have not yet reached to that state. So when you take the word lightly, sometimes we commit mistakes. Very good. You have done it. Become aware of it and think of it, contemplate and reflect, and then make a promise to yourself that I'm not going to repeat this. And I will offer my actions to the existence. That is the meaning of taking the word lightly. And then comes the step 4, how that will help you to cultivate the knowledge of this self. We did talk about the fourth one, binding desire, unbinding desire. I have to give a talk to you, and then I'm excited, then I'm reacting. No, I have to. Binding desire. I have to give. I'm giving a talk to you in a calm and relaxed manner. So, what is the lesson learned in this step 4? Whenever my mind is running into anxiety, duality, conflict, heaviness in the head, and exhaustion, it is somewhere inside there is a binding desire. Loosen that grip of the binding desire in the mind, make it unbinding. What will happen? The intellect will settle into the real self again. That is the power of these steps. And then what? The fifth step, error in judgment, is what is we explain by the word sin and the virtues, error in judgment. One thing we should understand clearly, because that unease that removes the burden on the mind. We are given birth as a human being by the existence with a checking account of the karma, past impressions that is being exhausted in this life. That helps us to clarify the mind and removes the doubt. What it means? It means, just take another example in life. Sometimes we do the best with the right intention. We perform our action for the other in a rightful manner. And still we are rebuked, we are humiliated, we are blamed. Reaction comes from the people. Sometimes people work a little, gets lot of money. Sometimes people work very hard for years together with no money or little money. What does that mean? Whatever the karma actions I am doing, that action is defective in nature. We cannot expect every action will give me the desired result. Sometime you have talked to your son at one time, the son rejected your kindness. Other time, the same son, with the same words, the he appreciated your kindness. That is what is the we say the sin and the virtues. So we accept the result and we live our life consciously. I just had another day before yesterday. She was discussing with me, my son is earning not earning enough to pay the mortgage, and now the lender will take over the house. The mother is quite rich. So she asked me that this is my idea that I should go for a reverse mortgage of my house and take $400,000 to pay the entire amount left of my son. I said, what will happen after that? How much that uh, house cost? It cost around something 420,000. And then she started telling me, even if I pay that, my son is not going to change. He sleeps, he's lazy, even though he's earning enough to feed himself. I said, then what is going to happen? He will become more lazy. And how much you are going to sell that house? No, it will not be sold more than 420 now, and they have to do lot of repair and maintenance. And even after 5 years, who knows, that house price will go down because of no repair and maintenance. Now he is my son, living unconsciously, habitually, impulsively, not ready to change. That house will go on auction in one day or the other. Today you have bought it, you go for the reverse mortgage, you have to pay, you are paying taxes of your house, and you are paying the taxes for that house also. So your decision is based on emotion, feeling, wrong perception. I said I should not intervene. But when you have asked me, so I am presenting the right perception. As if you are living in two houses and you are taking care of the two houses. One house you don't have control, you cannot manage, and the other you have taken a big amount. Do you realize that paying that much amount will make you happy and him happy? Her answer is no. I said, rethink over it. This causes the sins and the virtues. Living a life beyond these considerations in wisdom is the key to get rid of the unexpected, harmful, negative results in our day to day life. It is based on my decision, my perception. I say it is a right perception, but that is causing the wrong perception. That is what the fifth step is. Then comes the sixth step. We have to realize this is also related to the sixth step, realize inherent defects in the pleasure. Inherent defect in the pleasure. Why I'm buying it? Take the same example. Because that will make my son happy. Will the son be ever happy when he is already in stress and suffering? He's living in such a big house. He bought it out of excitement. That gave him little pleasure. Now you are paying the money because of the pleasure. His attitude will remain the same. So she was saying that it will be a good idea to invite the entire family to my house. I'm single. I said, think of it. In that case, then you can sell, you can ask the brother, you can ask the son to sell his house, whatever the amount he get or he did not get it. And in that way, ask the son to work hard and the things will go smoothly. That is one of the good options. So we have to work and contemplate to see the inherent defects in the pleasure. And I told her, you are already 80 years old. In that stage, you are making that decision. Think of it, please. So, starting the journey, today's journey started from the very mind has two functions, object, and then the mind becomes the doer, knower, and the enjoyer. And then they imagine, I am in stress. Do you still remember the stress is as real as dream? I'm not saying that you don't. Once the tiger chases you in the dream, you wake up, you don't feel this getting scared, feeling of pain, hard breath. That is perfectly real. But that is dream. The stress gives you the same. So when we are able to separate, understand the inherent defects in the pleasure, the defects in the karma, and continue to take the world lightly, doing our duty and responsibility, the mind is prepared to undertake a serious journey. We will take up in the next understanding how to cultivate that knowledge of the self. Why? To allow the intellect to settle in the wisdom of the real self. The mind should be settled in the home of calmness and peace. Physical body is always settled in the physical home. Thank you.